Okay, I'm going to use another algebra trick to simplify this. Hopefully you've been able to do this. But again, until you've seen it or seen something like it, it can be a little bit daunting. Okay? And you might not really get it right. Okay. Well, I've got a square root of x plus delta x. You know, what you need to do might or might not occur to you. Now, you might want to divide this into this. You can't do that. First place, you got to divide this into both this and this, because this is multiplication by reciprocal, and multiplication distributes over subtraction. Okay? In the second place, you can't go inside that square root sign, and there are all kinds of reasons, and I'm not going to detail them right now. Okay? Now, what I am going to do is I'm going to multiply numerator and denominator here by the same expression, with the idea that I really want to get rid of the square roots in the numerator. So how can I do that? Well, I'm just going to do it, and then you'll see how. I multiply by this over this, except I want a plus here and not a minus, because what I was about to say wasn't going to be true. Okay? Now, how does that help? Well, this is something minus something multiplied by that something plus something. That's like a minus b times a plus b. And you should be well rooted in the idea that a minus b times a plus b is a squared minus b squared. In other words, when I do this multiplication, I'm going to get something involving the square of this, something involving the square of this, and nothing else. And what I'm going to get then is just the square of this minus the square of this. Now, you can write this out with the distributive law and see that when you do the multiplication, you also get minus this square root times this square root. And you also get this square root times this square root. But the negative of this times this is the same as, well, it's equal and opposite to this times this, because you're going to get negative square root of x times the square root of x plus delta x, and a positive square root of x times the square root of x plus delta x. They go away. You should know why a minus b times a plus b is a squared minus b squared, and you should be able to apply that understanding here. And if not, you should really review that, although under time pressure, I understand why that might not happen. Okay? Now, the denominator, I'm getting a little crowded here, is going to be square root of x plus delta x plus the square root of x, all multiplied by delta x. Okay? Now, what's that equal? Well, if you square this, you get x plus delta x. Square this, you get x, and you got a minus. Okay? And then it's over your denominator. Square root of x plus delta x plus the square root of x multiplied by delta x. And that might be hard to read. I had to write it pretty small. Didn't give myself enough board space. Okay, well, the x subtracts off here. You got a delta x that gets divided by this delta x, and now you just got 1 over this square root plus this square root. We'll talk about what to do with that. So, there's another example. You should write that out and then think, well, I'll leave myself a little room here. This just equals 1 over. try to write this as clearly as possible. Okay, so that's the way it works out. Now, there's something else we're going to do with this. We're going to take some limits as delta x goes to 0, and then we're going to get something that makes a lot of sense. Okay. Now, you could also work this one out. And then you can try to work this one out. Okay. And I'll probably work those out and just point to what I've done rather than explaining every step, because that makes it shorter for you, and I think at this point you'll be able to get that.